Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Abercrombie Kids knows how to make outfitting easy. Mix and match sets are their ultimate outfit hack for fall. Their sweatshirts and sweatpants are super cozy, and they always have the cutest colors and patterns. Shop fall's easiest outfit at Abercrombie Kids in the app, online, and in stores.
This episode is also available as a video if you would like to see my facial expressions as well as listen to my voice. This is available to anyone who's a member of my Patreon at the $6 a month level. And also, if you would prefer to listen to this episode with just no ads at all, but my voice, that's available to people who join my Patreon at the $1 a month level. You can do either option by going to patreon.com/AnnFosterWriter. The link is also in this episode description. Enjoy! Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Vulgar History, a feminist women's history comedy podcast. My name is Ann Foster, and this is our Halloween special. And what is scarier than a gross man from history? That's right, we're talking about Lord Byron today. And this is sort of the finale of Mary Shelley Month. We've been talking about Mary Wollstonecraft, about Mary Shelley, Mary Shelley's legacy. But Lord Byron has been just like lurking there in the background of this story, and he deserves, and when I say deserves, it's like brackets, not complimentary, his own episode. I have a very special guest with me today. It is Emily Edwards, the former host of Fuckboys of Literature, who, if you listen to that podcast, you know how she feels about Lord Byron, perhaps, and also the current co-host of Ticklish Business, the movie podcast, author of a series of murder mystery novels. Welcome, Emily Edwards.
Hi, I'm so excited to be doing this.
Your energy is like, this is where I was like, I should do a Lord Byron episode because he kept coming up on all the Mary Shelley stuff. And I'm like, and then I was like, I think I need Emily. I think I need like...
Lord Byron is lurking in the shadows. I appreciate the fact that you're like, I need to call Emily in order to
I need
talk about this man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you were doing Fuckboys of Literature, was there, like, I feel like he's like the number one.
He was our first episode. Yeah. It was like, this is the archetype. The Byronic hero is the archetype of who we're talking about if we're talking about Fuckboys of Literature. It is a man who reads his own press releases and thinks absolutely nothing he has ever done is negative. Like, that's just like this glorious egoist kind of guy. And like, he got there by a well-traveled road. And like, we'll get into it because we're going to go through his entire bio. But like, he was a real piece of work. Like, he deserves every negative feeling you have about him.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to say, though. Not complicated feelings, but I will say that there is like at least one thing he did that I'm like, okay, Lord Byron. And that is, so I have a book that's coming out in February, Rebel of the Regency, a biography of Caroline of Brunswick, who was the Princess of Wales and then the Queen of England while Lord Byron was doing his thing. And he was a frequent guest at her dinner parties. And I was like, I think he would be a fun guest at a dinner party. He was a frequent guest at her dinner parties, and he was actually a good friend to her. And he like stayed on, there was this whole contentious thing with like her and her husband tried to divorce her, and the whole country was like, oh my God, she's a whore. What's happening? And Lord Byron was like, actually, she's great.
Yeah.
So he was like loyal to one woman who he was not related to and who he was not romantically involved with, but he was a good friend to her. And so I'm like, okay, he gets like 1 point for that.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy because when we get to the end of his life, like he threw money at problems that were not his problems. And you're like, that's a really interesting thing for a guy to do. But the road that led there was probably not all altruistic. It was probably 95% ego driven. And, you know, it's just, yeah, he was messed up. There's a lot of reasons why he was messed up. I have a lot of compassion for him. But it's one of those things where it's like reasons are not excuses. And you kind of go through all of the twists and turns of his life. I go, I see why you are the way you are. I don't like it. Still wouldn't want to know you. Still wouldn't want to be around anyone like you. But I get why you are the way you are.
Well, and I think you said like the road that led to him doing this altruistic stuff. It's like that road was paved with like the bodies of discarded women who he like, and men.
Yeah.
People who he treated really, really, really badly.
Yeah, he used and abused and just kind of like tossed out like yesterday's trash. And women especially, but most notoriously, you know, he had a lot of male friends of varying gravitas that he would just sort of be like, you're in charge of my estate now, get this published. And then when it, you know, it would all go wrong and he'd just be like, you're dead to me, and flounce off. And just, yeah. But by and large, he had absolutely no respect for the reputation of women that were in his orbit. And, you know, he probably got off actually on destroying the reputations of women because he knew that he couldn't be, you know, taking down pegs like they were. And there was like just a certain sort of like, I'm rubber, you're glue kind of aspect to his reputation. And he just, man, it's super gross.
He's also, if people are like, Lord Byron, I've like maybe heard of him, maybe I haven't. People may have heard the phrase like mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Yes. A phrase that was written about him. Mm-hmm. That's why that phrase exists.
Yeah, exactly. By a woman who was equally as obsessed with him as he was with her, but she was obsessed with him for a much longer period of time. And he tried to throw her out with all his other ex-girlfriends, and Lady Caroline Lamb. And she was just like, I'm going to have this man who matches my crazy. And we are just going to be, you know, a power couple. And he was just like, absolutely not. And so Caroline Lamb did a whole lot of crazy things to try to get Lord Byron's attention, including besmirching his name around town, which didn't really need that much help besmirching. But Caroline Lamb is why we have that phrase. Byron wronged her in every creative way possible, but she was also not approaching this from a healthy and reasonable standpoint is what I'll say about that.
What I want to also just like, before we get into like his life story, is just like to draw a picture for everybody about this era, the Georgian era / the Regency era. And a lot, myself included, before I started reading more about it, I was like, oh, wow, you know, it's like Jane Austen times, like everyone's kind of like genteel and nice and polite and writing little letters to each other. It's like everybody was addicted to opium. Yep, is a crucial 100%. Thing. Everybody is in wild debt from gambling. Everybody is fucking everybody. And that's, so it's like, he's this person, but it's kind of like, and it stands out. So the fact that it stands out in this society means like how extreme he was about it. But it's also not like he's doing this and everybody else is like, oh, it's Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. Like the world is kind of fucked up around him as well. Just so people know that.
Yeah. And the only way to make money really is to take these wild ass gambles about like trade and things like that. So, you know, this was the age of exploration, the age of colonization, the age of dividing up Africa and Southeast Asia and the Americas. And so like so many people were like, I know how I'm going to make my nickel, and it's spend every single last cent that my family left me, if you're lucky and you've got money, and you're just going to like sail the ocean blue, and 90% of them died or lost all of their money. And so you have all of these noble families, including the Byrons, who go from like extremely high wealth to absolutely catastrophic poverty. And by like poverty by most people's standards, not even just like rich people's standards. And they would not know how to function. They're like, we're coming from massive generational wealth. Like when you think of European and English generational wealth, and it's just like, you know, like they just do whatever they want and breed horses and buy whatever. And they're coming from that. And then they're just losing it all. It is just gone. And they have no idea what to do. And they also are like, I could get a job. That's not going to happen. I could go to school. That's not going to happen. I could do all of these things. The only thing I can do is marry a woman whose father hasn't squandered her wealth. And that's the only option.
Mm-hmm.
It's this weird mercantilism of privilege where they're just like, there's a finite amount in this world and I have to acquire it all.
Well, and also I think that's sort of like the English class system, like still today, but then as well, it's so much just like you're either higher class or you're like lower class, and that's it. So even if you're higher class and you've lost all your money, it's like, well, you're still higher class, even though you're like actually actively poor. It's like, so that person would still be an appealing marriage prospect, maybe because of the title they bring.
Right, exactly. Which is just completely, we romanticize it so much as folks over here on North America, where we're just like, but who wouldn't want to be a lord? And it's like, yeah, it's probably going to keep you out of the workhouses and poorhouses. And you're probably going to have an extended line of credit that other people are not going to get. But it does also come with these overarching burdens where Byron as well, like suffered from like absolutely obsessive, compulsive things because he felt like he didn't match the concept of a lord. And so I can only imagine how much that screws up your basic sense of self, of just like, again, we'll get into all the Byron's issues as we keep chatting, but he hated himself so much. And that sort of whiplash of I am God's gift to women, I am God's gift to society, I am God's gift to poetry, I'm God's gift to literature. And then at the same time, he loathed himself so much for so many different reasons, physically and monetarily and talent-wise and things like that. And I could not imagine living in a brain that was that, bifurcated on how you view yourself.
Well, and that's why I mean, actually, I don't know, but I presume he was also doing a lot of opium because
tons of drugs. Drugs.
Everybody was.
Yeah,
that's just like how you get through the day.
Drinking and alcohol, and we'll get into. He also had an eating disorder. He was just like just every single vice and machination of like self-abuse that you can think of. Byron did it, had it, subscribed to it 100%.
So if we jump into his life, like we're going to do life beginning to end, it's never not interesting and weird and messy and like fascinating, but like, ugh. But so starting off with like, I don't know how much you know about his parents, but his dad was Mad Jack Byron.
Yeah. I mean, so like he's already starting off on like a baseline of like, oh, your dad's nuts. There's an excellent book that I will recommend right off the top of the bat called Fall of the House of Byron by Emily Brand. It's fascinating because it goes back a couple generations of like, here's like the screwed up foundations that Lord Byron was coming from. And it goes into his father, his grandfather, and I think even great grandfather of basically as like, here's how much money they had. Here's how it was squandered. Here's how everyone was tortured in very different ways. And his dad was really shipwrecked as a teenager and experienced that kind of massive trauma.
And he was called, I just want to emphasize, Mad Jack.
Yeah, Apple doesn't fall far on that one. Mad Jack, and then we've got Bad and Dangerous to Know, George Gordon Byron.
So you've got this, generational sort of, I mean, I bring this up a lot and not a lot of people know what I'm talking about, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Sweet Valley High spinoff series, the Wakefield Sagas.
Yes.
Where it's kind of like the olden times, like the ancestors of the Wakefield twins in different eras. And they're exactly the same as the Wakefield twins, but they're in the 20s. It's like they're exactly the same as the Wakefield twins, but it's like pioneer times and she runs off to join the circus. So it's like the Byron family, I feel like it's the same thing every generation. It's like, oh, it's the same person again.
Yeah.
Just like the same problems keep happening and ending badly again and again and again. Like that's just the curse of the family.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Like I am definitely someone who usually believes in nurture over nature, but like the Byron men are absolutely just like carbon copies of one another for generations, where they're like, I am profligate. I will just spend every single cent that comes into my pocket. I think I am God's gift to the world. And what is going to fix this situation is marrying and abusing a different woman because I have a title and I can do that.
So who is his mom, Byron's mom?
His mother was a woman named Catherine Gordon, who was a Scottish heiress from Clan Gorin. And she...
Is this the thing of like she had money, the debt, and like she got chosen because she had money situation?
100%. Yeah. Her dad owned like Aberdeenshire, basically. And so it was like huge. She was wildly, wildly wealthy. And so I found like a really quick thing. She had the equivalent of an estate of almost $4 million. And then when her husband spent all of her money and then died, she was left with about $24,000. That's how much money he spent. And this is like over the course of like 8 years. It's like nothing. He just spent every single last dime she had.
Yeah. And then he fucked off and died. Or did he,
Yep.
did he just, he's not in the picture. Lord Byron, like little baby Lord Byron is being raised in a single parent household.
Yeah. Essentially speaking, his father had sired a daughter, I believe, from his first marriage and got divorced, and then married Catherine Gordon, and then baby Lord Byron was born. He wasn't Lord. He wasn't actually expected to inherit the title.
We're just gonna imagine this just like little miniature.
Yeah, exactly.
Little baby Lord Byron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Little baby Lord Byron, still in like boots and a cravat and a cape, and basically, so his dad basically is like, I'm out of here. I'm going to peace off. I think he went to France and then just like died. And like never came back to the country. He just kind of like effed off and died in France because he was, whoring and spending and gambling and doing what he does.
I feel like inevitably it was probably a duel. Probably a duel went bad. I don't know that. I'm trying
to remember. I feel like he definitely like drank himself to death or something like that. Or, like had a wasting disease. I forgot exactly what it was, but he definitely did not have like a normal, healthy death.
But he was there with Catherine long enough to like sire a son, spend all her money, and then just like leave. So she's left with this little baby Lord Byron, not much money.
Yeah. And like this house that they inherited that is like falling down and disgusting. And she at least kind of like went back to a smaller home that she owned. And that's where she raised little baby Lord Byron. And, but like the manor house that he essentially inherited from his father was just like this cripplingly large, absolute pile of a massive house. And he was just, in his entire life, he was like, heard, you're going to inherit this house. You're going to get this massive estate. And then when he did at age 10 become, inherit some stuff through various uncles and his own father dying, he goes to this house and it is just this moldy, disgusting, horrible house. And he's like,
I'm picturing like, in Crimson Peak, there's like, they walk in the house and there's like snow falling because there's like not roof in part of it. Yeah. That's kind of what I imagine. Yeah.
That's pretty much what it was. It was just like roof falling in. Everything is moldy. Every single time I read about this house, like mold is like the number one, which granted, it's England. It rains a lot, but like they're just like, it was just disgusting. It was falling in on itself. It was absolutely reprehensibly like unfit for living. And so imagine this little kid who's just kind of like really full of himself because he's been told, like, you're inheriting something. This is your grand mansion. And he walks in and he's just like this dump. And so he just leaves.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame him. But like, I can only imagine of like, this sets the tenor of what it's going to be like to be Lord of, of Byron. And basically it's just like, it's garbage. Welcome to the rest of your life.
This is like really setting the scene too. Cause like you were describing earlier, it's like people, they are lords, but they have no money. So it's just, you think like, oh, Lord Byron, Lord, whatever. Like you think about, I don't know, Bridgerton or like anything, or just like, oh, he's a lord. And it's just like, ooh, that doesn't actually mean like he has money or like this is good. Like
he's got nothing.
A title is actually worth nothing if you don't have money also.
Yeah. And every single time I read about him and his past, it doesn't sound like there's an estate. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure he does have like tenants and things like that, but it's not the same sort of like, and these are my hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland where the people who live here produce money. It's literally more like, here's your disgusting falling down house and like small acreage that doesn't really produce any money whatsoever.
Yeah. So he's 10 years old. He has this moldy house that he walked away from. He's sent him to boarding school, right?
Yeah, on top of just to also reiterate the fact that Lord Byron was born with a limb difference. And so he had a deformed right or left foot. It's usually considered the right foot. And so his mother, not only was she livid and bitter because her husband just kind of like effed off to France, she was also not particularly kind about her son's limb difference. And so he was extremely self-conscious about this foot. And she called him a lame brat. She would call him names and abuse him deeply over this limb difference. And again, being the son of a man who deeply, deeply wronged her. So he was left with this deeply emotionally abusive mother as well. Right. And so, at 10, he's sent off to boarding school where apparently he flourished to an extent.
He was, I think it's important for people to know, very attractive.
Yes.
He was very handsome. He had a charisma about him. So I just imagine he goes there and he's just like realizes like, oh, people treat me in a certain way because of my handsomeness. Like, great. Like, this I can use this.
Yeah, he definitely had apparently like a real air of being to like, how like when you're a nerd like I was and you go off to college and you're like, no one knows me here and I can be a totally different person. And all of a sudden you just kind of like come into your confidence and stuff like that. Like, there's always, I was one of them where everybody's just like, when you go to school, when you go to college, everything's going to be different for you. Like you are not fitting in high school. But when you go to college, you're the kind of person who blossoms in college. That was basically Lord Byron with boarding school. He was just like, I'm gorgeous. He was very vain. He would like sleep with like curling papers in his hair and like he did his makeup essentially. And like he went off to boarding school and all of a sudden everybody was like, who is that young man? Including boys and girls.
And he was also like very, just I assume, because he became a poet and stuff. He would have been very like well read, like the same like a nerd going to college. It's like he shows up and it's like, oh, my intellect is respected here. Like, oh, this makes me more attractive to people. Fantastic.
Yeah, and definitely during that era when like, you were expected to kind of just turn emotions up to 11, like all the time of just like, obviously most of the literature we get out of that era. And he was clearly a pioneer of that, of just saying like, you couldn't just be like someone, you had to be like spirited away by love and things like, and so he was just like, if I notch it up to 11, he's already a dramatic guy to begin with. He's gorgeous. He's got a problem, in his eyes that makes him sexy with this foot. And he's just kind of like, I'm going to overcome it by like dressing in cloaks and wearing like swashbuckling boots. And this is when he starts the thing with the pets. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Like I was waiting to see when we would get into the dog and the bear, but
bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Byron was an interesting guy, and he was from the very beginning had a lot of animals. And so he had a Newfoundland, which is not a small dog.
Those are those huge
black 200-pound usually ish water dogs. They're massive. They're the biggest. Yeah. They're enormous. Yeah. And he had one named Boatswain, and he was like, I'm going to take this dog to school with me. It's my dog. He's helped me through thick and thin. He helped me through a rough childhood, and I'm going to take this dog with me. And his boarding school was like, no, like you can't have a 200-pound dog at boarding school. He has to go home. And I think he was a little bit older when this happened. This isn't happening when he's like, 13 or whatever. But he's like, I know the way around this. The school has a rule against having a dog, but they do not have a rule against having a pet bear. So he bought a trained bear and brought it to school and was just like, check and mate. And they were just like, oh my God. So he had a captive bear at boarding school with him for a time.
The vibes of that are like, those 80s movies about just kind of like the nerds are taking over the school. Yes. Like it feels like Animal House or something. It's just like, oh, in this fraternity, we can't have a dog. Well, we have a bear. Like it's just sort of like Jack Black movie. Okay, so
not imagine being that egotistical. You know what I mean? Like I was terrified of adults when I was 15, and he's just like, your brain is not even remotely fully formed yet. And yet what has formed in Byron's mind is like the vengeance reflex. And you're just like, ugh, this is not boding well for this man.
Well, and also he clearly like sees himself as so much smarter than other people.
Yeah.
And he does for his whole life. And he did in this context outsmart them kind of.
Yeah, he did, until surely the bear got the shortest end of the stick in this situation. But I don't know what happened to the bear, how long the bear was there. I never find details about that.
Yeah, the bear, like, I'm sure not a good life for a bear.
No.
Maybe it got taken to a zoo later on. I don't know. But this is the kind of guy he is. But also, like, let's talk about his, like, romances. His days as a schoolboy and his romances.
So in 1803, we've got like letters and journals and things like that. And that's essentially when Byron realized that he was like a sexual being at 15 years old. And there's talks about earlier, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, but like he was in love with this woman named Mary Shelley, who was also a teenager at the time, 15. And they were just like, had the hots for one another that they could not contain. And he also probably had a couple of same-sex dalliances or love affairs or air quotes, very close friendships at this time. And this is when all those switches got flipped for Byron. And he was like, this is the greatest drug of all time. Like sex is like, I don't want to diagnose someone who lived this long ago, but like there is definitely like whiffs of sex addiction already like kind of like turning on here in 15-year-old Lord Byron.
Well, and I think it's just kind of like an addictive personality in many ways. And this becomes one of the addictions that he has.
Yeah. And it's probably his favorite addiction because he starts churning through lovers like crazy. And this is 15. This is so young. He is such a baby. And you're just seeing him churn through people. And he kind of decides fairly quickly, he starts writing poetry and he decides fairly quickly that school is not the life for him. And so he kind of leaves a little bit later, maybe like he graduates, but he's like, and that's the end of the line on education for me. And he goes off on the grand tour. And if you're like a bisexual sex addict with tons of money to spend, the grand tour is what you've been waiting for your entire life.
So just so people know, in case people don't know, the grand tour, it's like, we saw Colin do this on Bridgerton. Various people did this on Bridgerton. But it's just kind of like in this era, this like late 18th century, early 19th century, like a young man would it's kind of like a gap year, but just for having sex and seeing museums.
Yeah.
So you would just take a year and just travel around sort of like continentally. You go to like Greece and Italy, France, and you just kind of like visit the museums and just like have sex with women and men or whoever. Whomever. Everywhere.
Yeah.
You kind of like spend you're just like just a fuck tour of just Europe.
Yeah, essentially. And there is also like an air of poverty tourism too, where they don't go necessarily to like Paris. They spend some time in France, but generally speaking, it's to Italy, to Spain, to Greece, to the south of France, where all these British people can just be like, look at all these poor people who once made art that I can appreciate, and I'll steal some of it if Byron was against pilfering antiquities. So at least we had that going for him. But most of them were just kind of like, oh, look at all of these fallen civilizations. I'm going to take everything I like for pennies on the dollar and return back to the comfort and, like upper crust comfort of living in the UK with my better British people.
Is this where spoiler kind of, he gets a real interest in Greece? Is this where he first, do you know?
I'm trying to, I don't recall exactly where he went on his first grand tour. It was a couple years. It was like 3 years. And I think he spent most of his time in like Italy, Greece, and Spain. Mm-hmm. And I think this is also when he went to Egypt. And so he was notoriously like carving his name. That's right. He carved his name in the Temple of Poseidon. You can still see it to this day. He wasn't stealing stuff, but he was defacing it.
Byron was here.
Literally his signature is like in a block at the base of a Temple of Poseidon in, I think, Kefalonia. There's like Byron is just like scrawled in like foot high letters in the bottom of this ancient Greek temple. what a swell fella, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the thing where it's like, well, he was against pilfering antiquities. It's like, good. But then it's like, he carved his name in this temple. Bad. Like, it all kind of balances out.
Yeah. He like later on, he was totally against Lord Elgin stealing the Parthenon marbles. He wanted them returned. He was really, like you mentioned, like he got real obsessive with ancient Greece. And he was just like, this is the greatest civilization in the world. But, still beat feet back to Britain after a while. He was not going to permanently settle here as a young man. He was going to go back to Great Britain and fuck around with its women for a little while.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're not going to get into every single dalliance that he was involved with, but like he comes back to Britain. At what point does he become a famous poet?
This actually started while he was just after he got back from the Grand Tour. He wrote the first couple of cantos of one of his more famous poems called Child Harold's Pilgrimage in 1812, just when he got back. And the first couple of cantos that were published were essentially like, I am this grand romantic young man. I am in love with this woman. He was in love with a girl at the time. But I have to go, out into the world in order to seek my education and fortune. And this was like, it was like a Taylor Swift album. Like it sold like absolute hotcakes. And again, I should probably do some maths because in 1812, he was born in 1788. So he's still a relatively young man. And it just flew off the shelves. It just like churned. The first printing was like 500 copies and it sold out in like 3 days. Like it was just disappeared. And all of a sudden he is being heralded as like the future of British poetry and literature. And he was just kind of like, correct. Like he believed so much in himself.
But so it's like his first published work and he becomes incredibly famous off. Like it's it's not like he's slowly, I've just been doing these episodes about like Mary Wollstonecraft and stuff. It's like she wrote a thing and it's like, well, this did okay. And the next thing does a bit better. And the next thing does a bit better. But Byron was just like, here's my one thing. And everyone's just like, we love you. You're hot and wrote a thing. Like,
it's incredible. I mean, like, it's got to be both incredibly ego fulfilling where you're just like, yes, I have sat with this poetical thought in my head probably since birth. I have had this thing where I am clearly a hero. So I'm going to write the most barely disguised roman à clef about my emotions and my feelings and going on tour. And immediately he is rewarded for it. There's not even a second where like the entire United Kingdom is like, maybe, I don't know. No, it's just he has immediate confirmation that he is the most interesting man on the planet.
Yeah. But you were saying before, like at the very beginning about how he has kind of like the self-hatred mixed with like the vanity. So I could see that this is like, yes, of course you all love my book. It's great. But I would imagine like olden days imposter syndrome might have been there a little bit to just be like, wow, everyone loves my book, but it's just, but I hate myself. Like there's...
Yeah, exactly. Like he was very, very, I mean, we can like armchair sort of psychoanalyze Byron till we're blue in the face, but like he definitely had a bit of like a bipolar sort of thing happening, whereas like he was never on the up for very long. There was always going to be some sort of catastrophic fall, most of them of his own making. Right after we published Child Harold's Pilgrimage is when he starts the affair with Lady Caroline Lamb. So he's just like, I am on top of the world. We are Jack from Titanic. And what I'm going to immediately do is get involved with a very unstable young woman. And it's just like, oh man, that self-defeat that immediately kicks in order to, it's like you could have just found some hot princess who didn't want to marry you across all of Europe. And no, he had to go with Lady Caroline Lamb, who was not too tightly tied together.
Okay, so this is the person you talked about at the beginning, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. So they're the ones, like they're into each other and then he is over it and she is not over it. She's like making scenes in public and stuff, right? Like she's just like, yeah.
Yeah, she would start rumors about him. She dressed up as a page boy and broke into his house.
Yes.
Like in order to like stalk him. She would besmirch his name and start rumors about him. We're pretty like history is fairly certain. Like she's the one who started the rumor that Byron was having an incestuous affair with his half sister. It may or may not have been true. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody come down hard on either side of whether or not that was factual, but chances are Carolyn Lamb was the one who was tittering about that to all of society. She was out to destroy this man because he broke up with her after like a couple of months. Basically.
I want to say, lady, I don't know for sure. You could confirm maybe. Was she not married, Lady Carolyn Lamb?
I believe she was, yeah. So he was her affair partner, basically. And
so the fact that she's doing all of this stuff to just be like, how dare you break up with me? Like, get back together with me. Like, besmirching his name. It's like, ma'am, you're married.
You're married.
Like, this isn't even your husband. This is...
Yeah. He rarely got involved with women who were available to be wed. That was probably certainly a distancing factor for Lord Byron. He did not like single girls. He liked them. Either they were too young to get married or they were already married to someone who was far more powerful than he would ever be. So like, you know, he was pretty low on the peerage. No, what was he? He was a baron. I don't know where that is on the peerage importance, but it's not like the highest up there. He's not a duke. He's not like, you know, the most important peer in the world. And so he would often get involved with women who were never going to leave their husband for him. And he liked it that way. And Carolyn Lamb was very much someone who was already married, was never going to be granted a divorce by her husband. And she went crazy for him. I don't know why.
What year are we in? Do you know?
We're in 1812 is about when they started their affair. And it petered out by 1813. It was gone.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking because we're around the time of Mary Shelley enters the chat, where he and Percy Shelley become bros and they're friends and they like each other. And he becomes involved with Mary Shelley's stepsister Claire, and everything you're just describing, I'm just like, yeah, I see why he and Claire didn't work out, obviously, because she was a young single woman, and she was available and she wanted to be with him, and he liked people who were less available, obviously.
Yeah. Before he gets involved with Claire and of striking up a real friendship with the Shelleys, he did actually manage to get married for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So he married a woman named Annabella Milbank, who was actually Lady Carolyn Lamb's cousin. So it was like,
just to make her even more crazy. Yeah,
exactly. You know what's great when you're being stalked by a woman who has absolutely no boundaries or sense of protocol whatsoever? Marry someone she intimately knows and is related to. And so he got married to Annabella Milbank in 1815 and fathered a girl by the name of Ada, also in that same year. And if you know anything about women's history, which I'm sure you do if you're listening to this podcast, that was Ada Lovelace, one of the co-creators of computer programming and computational maths that I don't understand.
What my friend Lana has said is like Ada Lovelace became who she was, and like, which was like a okay person, mainly because her mother had let her have nothing to do with Lord Byron and raised her herself.
Yeah. As soon as Annabella kind of gave birth to a daughter, she was like, you cannot be around your father. And she just left, immediately got a divorce in 1816. And Ada never saw her father, basically, and which, thank God, her mom did that. Yeah. And then as soon as Byron was a divorcee, he was like, England has nothing left for me, and then just left and went to Switzerland.
Right. Yeah. Right. So this is like we're tiptoeing up to Lake Geneva, the house, the year with no summer, etc. Yes. But at some point when he was in England during this time, this is okay. I have a real soft spot for Claire Claremont. I just feel like she was a cool person and deserved better and deserves better now. But so she met him at some point and she's just like, wow, with Claire Claremont, like she saw that Mary Shelley was with Percy Shelley and she was like, I too will be involved with a great writer. Here's one, Byron. And she just like glommed onto him, and like she's the reason that the Shelleys and like when they wound up at Byron's house was because she was just like pursuing him and he was like not interested in her whatsoever. But he's just like, you're here, I'll fuck you, but like whatever. And she's just like, this is my great love story. And it was all
oh, girl. It's one of those things where you're like, where would lucky Claire Claremont be if she had had ready access to birth control and hadn't have been attached to Byron by being the mother of one of his illegitimate children later on?
So he's in Switzerland. So I presume like, they have this like Crimson Peak crumbling manor. The mother has like $24,000. Like he's not wealthy, but as soon as he becomes a writer, he becomes wealthy. From his writing. Yes. And that's why he's able to just be like, I'm going to go to Switzerland and live in a villa. It's just like he's living the life he felt he always deserved, really.
Yeah. And he also sold the ancestral home. So at this time there are, when you read like old British fiction and it's just like, oh, the new money industrialists are buying up all of like the lordship manors and stuff like that. Lord Byron was like, you don't say, and basically sold the pile. He was like, we're done. I want no ties to England. He sold the grounds. He had cash coming out of his eyeballs because of his exceptional prowess at writing and also selling what he wrote. And he was like, oh, this is perfect. I can just be a vagabond about Europe. And the first place he goes is Switzerland, because where else would you go if you've got money coming out of your eyeballs? And he settled on, I forget. Oh, at the suggestion of his doctor, John Polidori, he settled up in this villa. And he was just like, this is going to be great. We are going to have so much sex, do so much drugs, and write so much weird erotic poetry. And everybody was like, sign me up. We are here for it.
Yeah. No, it's like the most demented writer's retreat to just like, do you want to come here and just like fuck each other constantly and write the most fucked up things?
Yeah.
Come to my villa.
We've got grown men and teenage girls, basically. And they're just kind of like, we are going to do so many seedy things that everybody, like, honestly, this sounds like a nightmare to me. Like just learning more. When you first learn about the villa and the summer when Mary Shelley and John Polidori are basically inventing genre literature, you're like, oh my God, what would it be like to be there? And now that I'm a grown adult woman, I'm just like, that sounds like hell on earth. I would rather saw off my own foot.
No, the vibes are kind of like Epstein Island, like era. It's just kind of like grown men, teenage girls, just like what is happening there? Nothing good.
Yeah.
And Mary Shelley also, it's just like, I want to, we've talked about this all month, but like, yeah, she's a teenage girl, but she just like is pregnant and like her baby just died. She's not just like, woohoo, I'm just like here for a good time.
It's not spring break. She's just like, I'm going to self-medicate with orgies and opium, alcohol, and just like marinating in my own traumatic stress disorder and like, and the fact that her husband or her boyfriend at the time is like wildly older than her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like the least healthy mixture of circumstances possible for this girl to now write Frankenstein, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the fact that I don't know, the whole thing about the night that she, that let's write ghost stories or whatever. It's just like, wow, thinking about the people who were there, like the fact that one of them is Byron is just,
yeah.
And now for a quick advertising break.
Fall is here, and with it comes cooler nights, heartier meals, and the craving for something warm and satisfying. That's where HelloFresh comes in, bringing you comforting, chef-designed recipes and fresh seasonal ingredients right to your door. This season, they've taken things to the next level with their biggest menu refresh yet. Say hello to a whole new way to do dinner. That's right. HelloFresh has doubled its menu. You can choose from 100 options each week, including new seasonal dishes and recipes from around the world. You can even dig into bigger portions that'll keep everyone satisfied. And I just want to let you know, in my box this week, because I do in fact use HelloFresh, They have Halloween themed things, and one of them is a meal that's like stuffed red peppers, but you can carve little jack-o'-lantern faces on the peppers. How cute is that? You know, I like a little whimsy with my food, and you're going to get that with that meal. And also, if you're not whimsical, other kinds of meals too. The best way to cook just got better. Go to hellofresh.com/vulgarhistory10fm now to get 10 free meals and a free item for life. One box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's hellofresh.com/vulgarhistory10fm to get 10 free meals and a free item for life.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast Gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast Gems.
And we're back. Knowing as much as I know now about Mary Shelley, but Percy Shelley, and then also Claire, I don't know as much about Polidori, but like long-suffering Dr. Polidori, I would say. Who's maybe one of Byron's lovers?
Perhaps.
Yeah. They were... Whomst was Byron not fucking who was around him?
That's like really the number one question. At this point, I can assume that he and Percy Shelley even probably had I'm sure there was just like no boundaries whatsoever, which like rock on, cool. If everybody's consenting and totally going along with it, have fun, you weirdos. But like at the same time, like no one's in a good place. Like Byron's just been left by the woman he's going to marry. He's never going to see any of his kids. He's severing all ties to his homelands, like, and all of his privilege. He's just decided that like the vagabond life is for me. And he it's like when you go through a breakup and you're just like, I'm going to cut my hair and move cities and things like that. And he's doing that. And everybody's just like, I want to get bagged down by this man. He's like, Claire, read the room. You don't want to get bogged down by this man.
Yeah. Well, and that's where Claire's just sort of like, obviously, so she becomes pregnant. Claire. So she has a daughter and she calls the daughter Elba initially, which stands for like LB, like Lord Byron, which is
man, I didn't know that.
Her nickname that she called him was like LB. So she's like, our daughter will be Elba. And he's like, no, our daughter will be called Allegra. And I'm going to take her from you and send her off to a convent where she like dies of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Like, because he's like, I don't want you to raise her because you are just this like teenage girl and who cares? I will take the daughter away and then she will die. And then she
will die. Yeah, he lost a lot of kids. I mean, it was the time partially, but also like negligence. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, and he just did not care. So I know, just like Claire.
I know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a comparison. It's just like somebody's just like, oh, I met Leonardo DiCaprio and I'm just going to like, I'm sure he'll marry me. It's like, no, like this. No.
Yeah. It's like whenever someone announces that they're having like a love child by a celebrity, you're like, wow, what did you do to facilitate that? You know what I mean? Where there's like, did you just kind of go like, I'm going to skip my pill for today? Did you poke holes in things? Like, what did you do? And it's, with Claire is definitely like she baby trapped that fella. Like, I don't like using the phrase, but it might have happened.
She thought that this would persuade him to be interested in her, and he clearly was not.
No.
Poor Claire. We have an episode about her that if you scroll back through the feed, listeners, we do a whole thing about Claire. She turned out just fine.
Good.
But this was quite a time for her. So Lord Byron, okay, so this is like, he intersects with the Shelleys, and then they stay connected for a while. Like they're all palling around in Italy, having a nice time, etc.
Yeah, he went
quote unquote a nice time. Percy and Byron are having a nice time. Mary is like constantly pregnant and like going through it.
Yeah.
And the only person who's like, maybe we should like pay the rent. Maybe we should like have a meal today, like with protein in it. Like that's her role. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how long Polidori stuck around, but it was probably like Mary and Polidori like hiding in like the scullery going like, what are we going to do with these two men who absolutely refuse to do anything but take drugs, drink, and have sex? Like, what are we supposed to do with these people? Can we shoot them? Is that allowed? Like, what if we go somewhere? Can we dispatch of them because this is awful? So instead they go to Venice. And Byron's just like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to screw around with two married women, and that will not come bite me in the ass. And it did. Surprise, surprise. He took up with two Italian married women, both of whom far lower on the social strata than him. And he's just kind of like, this is perfect. Nothing could be better. It's such a nightmare.
What is the result of this thing? I'm just keep hoping for a duel, but I don't know.
She got chased off by husbands, basically, more than anything. Yeah. Like that was a constant thing where he was just going to like woo these women. I think also at the same time, he might have had a thing for like a 17-year-old wso supposed to get.
Yeah, there's a teenager who maybe has a baby also.
Yeah. In 1820, he meets, so it's a little bit after this. He meets a woman named Countess Teresa I cannot pronounce that. It's Italian. Guiccioli. Oof, man, I don't know. Guiccioli, I think you're correct, and begins an affair with her, but she's 17 and she's born nobility. And her father is like, get out. Her father is like the only responsible adult man ever in Byron's life who was just like, stay away from my daughter. Touch her again and I will kill you. Get out of here. And he does. He legitimately leaves Venice and he's all over northern Italy at this point.
I want to say, okay, because this intersects, I just did like a word search in my manuscript to be like, when was he doing stuff with Caroline of Brunswick? So this is where, Caroline of Brunswick, the, at this point, Queen of England, but she's living in Italy for various reasons you can learn about in my book, Rebel of the Regency. But she's living in Italy at this point, and so she and Byron like they hang out sometimes because he's like her like chaos friend who just like comes to her dinner party sometimes.
Yeah.
So at this point, what was happening is that her husband George IV is trying to divorce her, and so he sent all these spies to Italy to try to catch Caroline having affairs with people. And stuff. Like Lord Byron didn't like George IV because he thought he was a fuck up. So like, if you want to know like who is, like Lord Byron was just like, this guy sucks too much for even me. Lord Byron.
Wow.
Is
how much
of
an
he was.
Awful, tragic mess do you have to be for Lord Byron to be like, too rich for my blood. I'm not even for me.
That's too much.
Pile. Yeah.
Let me see. So what happens is, Lord Byron wrote a poem or maybe a play called Don Juan, which was mocking George IV, actually, and kind of like being like Caroline's cool, actually, is sort of the subtext of that play.
I love it.
Anyway, so eventually what happens is that Lord Byron Caroline was put on trial. She went back to England and there's a adultery trial, and they had to recall all of the lords to come and like sit at her to be like the jury for her trial.
Yeah.
This is like 367 men and it's summer vacation and they're all just like somewhere else, but they're like, you all have to come back.
And sweat in Parliament while listening to this woman's like, they had to sins be taken out before you. Yeah.
They were never all there in the House of Lords because they were like, it's like an honorary title. Like you just get to sit in the House of Lords when you're a lord, but most of them never came. So there wasn't even enough chairs for them. They had to build like stands. For all of them to fit in there. Awesome. Anyway, so here's the thing. Lord Byron is in Italy at this time so he did not attend the trial because he was currently in an active feud with her lawyer. And he was like, if I come back to England, I will have to be in a duel with him and I don't want to have to kill him. Sorry.
Sorry, girl bestie. Like, I can't come and vote against your husband. Like, even though like your literal life and livelihood relies on me perhaps doing so, because it sounds really inconvenient and personally traumatic. And I'm not going to do that.
But here's what he wrote. So he was from Ravenna, northern Italy. So he's like following the news of the trial, even though he's not personally there.
Yeah.
And so but he's still on her side. He says, nobody here believes a word of the evidence against the queen. The very mob cry shame against their countrymen and say that for half the money spent upon the trial, any testimony, whatever, may be brought out of Italy. So he is from Italy. Like, he didn't show up. He didn't go to the Caroline was like, she's written to all of the lords who are her friends. And she was just like, hey, like, could you, like, you lords who are my friends, can you come here and like support me? And he's like, girl, no, sorry. No. So on the one hand, it's like, you know, he's stands with her, he supports her. But on the other hand, like, when he was actually needed, he didn't come.
Yeah.
But he was
he's like I gotta wash my hair. I'm sorry.
But he's just being like, word on the street here is like, yeah, everyone in Italy is like, we all know she's innocent. So it's like we get some intel from him. So it's during this era when he's just kind of like traveling around Italy, just like doing whatever, that he's like, sorry, bestie. Best of luck, Caroline.
Oh, God, that's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to hear anytime where you're just like, here's your moment to grasp like a sliver of humanity and just scrape back like your reputation for posterity. And he's just like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, that sounds really grossly inconvenient. Ravenna and Venice are lovely this time of year. And I hear something is happening in Greece and I should get in on it. And he's just like, no, that sounds like a you problem, basically.
Yeah. It's just like, you're my girl. I like when you have a party and I'm in the same city, I will attend it, but we're not like close like that.
Oh, what a monster. Like, again, so one thing that I should probably say before we go too much farther is that Lord Byron was wildly abused as a child. He and probably sexually by both a woman that was a maid in his house and also one of his mother's boyfriends. So there's so like you can understand, we're talking like he was essentially raped by one of the maids in his house when he was 9. And even younger than that, one of his mother's boyfriends might have sexually abused him. There's definitely some textual evidence to the fact that he may have been like deeply, deeply, deeply abused as a young man. And I can only imagine what that does to your brain in that time of that era with absolutely no recourse or treatment or therapy about it available, possibly at that time.
Well, at this time, like, as I talk about in my book, everyone's just kind of like leeches and opium. That cures everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Everybody is dropping a tuberculosis. They're like, let's like self-medicate with booze, whores, and opium. That's what you get. And
but this is like, it's a connection that I've, seen in other stories or whatever, like documentaries. It's like the child sexual abuse, like, and then can manifest as an adult with its sexual compulsion. Like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And just like a relatively complete inability to understand like emotional relationships where you're saying, like Carolyn is just kind of like, can you help me? And he's like, no, I can't, because I'm just not capable of doing things for other people in any way, shape, or form. He just is completely emotionally, messed up in ways that I can't say in a more academic context. He just does not have, he has never really demonstrated the ability to have adult reciprocal relationships with other people. He had like a bromance with Percy Shelley. And then when Percy dies in like a boating accident, basically the best Byron can do is like, oh, that yacht that I just built? I'm not going to keep it. And that's it. That's like the end of their, relationship. There's no outreach to Mary. It's just like, oh, he dead. Oh no, I'm going to get rid of my boat because I don't want it to happen to me. And that's that. That's all there is. That's all she wrote.
Yeah. And this is where, again, coming back to Claire Claremont, just like the fact that she's just like, oh, this, like, if I have a child with him, like, there'll be an emotional attachment. Like, the expectation she had that he would behave like she would expect a person to behave. It's like, he doesn't do that. He doesn't have emotion. Like, that's very astute what you're saying. Like, he just doesn't have this depth of emotional relationship with anybody. He just doesn't. Yeah. That's just not a thing that he's capable of doing.
It's 100% self-serving at all times. And I think he was really able to grasp larger scale concepts of justice and human rights and things like that. Like, he read about the Luddites at a certain point. And the Luddites were a group that nowadays get a bad rap for being anti-technology. But realistically, what they were mill workers. And they saw that there was like a new invention in milling. And they were like, if you adopt this technology, and huge numbers of people are going to go get out of work. They're going to be put out of work if you adopt this new looming technology. And Byron was like, they're right. Like, you don't want to put towns out of business because weaving got more, faster, harder, better, faster, stronger. It's like, this was the Industrial Revolution. And he was like, we can slow it down. Like, we can help people without, like killing industry and things like that. So, he got a sense of a larger scale, justice and relationship and people's well-being. He just couldn't get it on an interpersonal scale. And so you read about him and you're just like, how come you couldn't extrapolate human rights abuses and wanting, freedom, and which we'll get into with the Greeks and the Turks. And it's like, how could you understand that, but not understand that, like, maybe you should be nice to the mother of your children? Like, you couldn't grab it.
Yeah. Well, and this also, I think that correlates with what we were talking about with like the Elgin marbles, where he was just like, and this was a thing where the British government paid a whole lot of money to just like take these cultural artifacts at a time when just England was not thriving agriculturally, economically. Like, this money could have been spent helping people in various ways, but instead the government was like, but what if marbles?
Yeah. And Lord Byron, if we just raped treasure from everywhere else on the planet?
What if we use our treasury to buy these like cool looking marbles? And Lord Byron was against that. So like, again, that's another sort of thing where he's just like, no, those belong to that country. So it's like, I think that's where I have these like not mixed emotions, but just like, he's a complex person because he's often what we would say is like on the right side of these sort of historical injustices.
Very much so. Yeah.
But then on a personal level, he's so shitty to everyone.
That's one of the things where it's like, you read more about the abuses, the real, tangible, concrete, like no questions asked abuses that he suffered as a kid. And then you get to his true and honest dedication to like fighting for human rights and cultural, I can't come up with a better term for it, but like, and culture at large and things like that. And you're just like, you were a good guy somewhere. And I almost feel bad that his reputation is for being such a monstrous, shitty fuckboy, because he was, and that is his overarching reputation. And he earned every minute of it. But at the same time, I'm like, I also do want to acknowledge the fact that he was actually kind of cool about some stuff. Like, he really was.
Yeah.
He contains multitudes, this one.
He does. So in terms of just like villains of this era, George IV, no redeeming qualities. Terrible on a personal level, terrible on a global scale, terrible in a human rights, social justice way. No redeeming qualities. Byron, some redeeming qualities.
Some, shockingly. Yeah, surprisingly so.
Yeah, his views are like it's not just like, oh, everyone thinks this, so I'll think this too. It's like, he really was like, no, I personally feel the injustice of this, and I'm going to speak out about it.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the popular thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the full extent of his like sort of ruminations on it. But when he was a kid, he started reading about the oppression of the Armenians by the Turks. So like 100 years before the genocide. So it's like the 1813, 1815. He started to read about how like the Turks and the Ottoman Empire is like overtaking all of these different countries, like the Armenians and then the Greeks. And he's just like, something must be done about this. So when he's run out of Italy, essentially for sleeping with way too many underage girls and countesses, he goes to Greece and he's like, this is where I'm going to make my legacy. And he liquidates his entire estate. He's got the equivalent, again, he finally earned the equivalent of like currently 2 million Great British pounds. And he's like, it is all going to go to the Greek War of Independence. I am going to help the Greek people overcome the oppression from the Ottoman Empire and overthrow the Turks. Like there was a lot of infighting amongst the different like Greek cities, essentially city-states and like islands and stuff like that. And he's just like, let's get down to brass tacks. We're all going to come together. We're going to finish our petty squabbles and we're going to gain independence from the Ottoman Empire. And they basically do, thanks to Lord Byron.
So I want to clarify though, like he provided funds for them, for people there who knew what they were doing. He wasn't like on the battlefield leading troops.
No, I know that he kind of like sat down with various faction leaders and was like, you need to stop doing this, basically. And it's like, you're never going to overthrow the Turks unless you like stop infighting amongst yourselves. And he managed to like kind of negotiate some stuff. But like, people on the ground in Greece loved him. He wasn't,
There's a statue of him, I think, right?
Yeah. They named a town after him. Like, it's nuts when you think about that. And no, he's not like, Admiralty of the Navy, and leading the charge, but like he is a fairly well-respected person amongst the people who are actually leading the armed forces of Greece against the Ottoman Empire. And you think to yourself, like, that guy?
Yeah.
But that guy, yeah, I know.
He contains multitudes. But this is also the final era of his life.
Yeah.
Because it's not like dramatically shot down in battle, but he like gets a cold or tuberculosis or something.
Yeah, he gets some kind of like wasting disease in 1824, and he was about to be a part of an actual like physical attack on a Turkish-held fortress called Lepanto in 1824, and he gets sick. And within a couple of weeks, he passes away. So he's relatively young, 1824, and he's and the Greeks are like beside themselves.
Yeah, well, this was the guy. Like he was truly a hero to them.
Yeah. It's kind of mind-boggling to be like this romantic poet that by like today's standards is like effete and like like he's a fancy man basically, and he like cares about, he's still like curling his hair, he's still got affectations. There's a very, very, very famous portrait of Byron in like the full like sort of like different hats and like headgear, and he's got like swashbuckling capes and things like that. And this is how he wants to be remembered, in fancy dress essentially. And yet like all of these Greek war heroes are like, he's our guy. We wouldn't have been able to do this without him, which is, he never, when you think of like lordship and peerage in Britain, you think of like, oh, the Duke led, his troops into battle and things like that. He didn't do that in his home country. He needed to do that in Greece, which is very
on behalf of just himself. It's not like England is coming in and this is the like army guy that we chose to lead. He was just like, I personally, Lord Byron, on behalf of just myself, I'm going to do this. It's not just like England is going to intervene. He's like, no, I, Byron, will intervene. Like it was just entirely, it's such a, if this was like a fictional book, you just be like, that's not a believable ending for this story. Yeah. This does not tie in with what we've been talking about and the person that we've been hearing about. Like this is the end.
Yeah, it's like a complete and total like 180 in personality. It's like when rich white women decide they're going to start dog rescues, and you're just like, other people were doing that. You didn't need to start it up. And he was like, no, I need to come in here and save Greece. I mean, there was probably, again, because he read about the Turks, oppressing Armenians, and then he read about the Turks oppressing the Greeks. And so there's probably some anti-Muslim, anti-Turkish sentiment happening here. It doesn't really go down in history like that, but I'm sure there's something nefarious underneath it all. But surprisingly enough, he just decides he's going to do it, and he does.
And there's something about, if you don't know, I'll just look it up quickly, but like his grave, there's something like he wanted to be buried in Westminster Abbey and they wouldn't let him be, or something like that.
Yeah. Cause, word got back to, the church about Lord Byron, and they were like, you are not really appropriate to be buried here. And so, my goodness, I don't know why I didn't like take notes on his burial, but no, he was not allowed, because they have like, Poets Corner and things like that. And he was like, no, I want to be buried there. And they were like, actually, no. And so,
and wasn't he also like, and I would also like a grave for my dog.
Yeah.
I'm just looking it up right now because I know that there's a whole saga.
So I know that, I think he paid for the memorial for his dog. And after he died, and everybody knew of his fame as a poet, and this is like the early 1900s. People were talking about like, there's a memorial to his dog, but there's not a memorial to Lord Byron. And apparently like school children started a fund in order to create like a memorial, like plaque, monument for Lord Byron, which like, could you imagine being like, we're going to go around to the primary school and collect loose change for a memorial to this dead poet? But they did. And the kids like did it amongst themselves, and they had a memorial built. And then after a short time, part of him was finally buried or they created a memorial to him in Westminster Abbey.
In 1969. There's like I was there last summer, and I was just like, Westminster Abbey I found very overwhelming. I was just like, I'm going to go see the graves of all the people I've heard of. And I was just like, I did not go in there with a map or a plan, which I should have.
Yeah.
Because everything is in Latin. Yeah. Including people's names.
Great.
But his was just in Poets Corner. I'm like, oh, Lord Byron. I'm like, I remember there's a saga about this. But yeah, so I want to mention, you can go to Poets Corner and there's like a grave or like a floor stone.
Which was paid for by the Greeks.
Of course it was.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you know what? We're going to have like some Greek leader is the person who paid for that memorial, like that piece of marble.
Because that's like the one place where he did something good. I want to mention also Epitaph to a Dog. So this is, so he wrote a poem, his dog, Boatswain, remember? The giant 200-pound dog that he couldn't bring to school. So, so Boatswain, 1808, tragically died of rabies.
Yeah, he tried to nurse him back from rabies. Didn't work, clearly. Yeah.
Did not. Quite a choice. Because as then as now, when you get rabies, you just die.
You just die. You go nuts and you die. Yeah.
Yeah. So Boatswain, so he was like nursing his rabid dog. Anyway, so he wrote a poem about his beloved dog. And so this poem is inscribed on Boatswain's tomb, which is larger than Byron's at Newstead Abbey, Byron's estate. So
yeah. I would not want to tango with a rabid Newfoundland like that.
Like a 200-pound rabid dog.
Enormous. Like a couple of years ago, I almost adopted a Newfoundland, and I was like, and he was small, air quotes, at 120 pounds. And I was like, I don't want a 120-pound dog. So I didn't adopt that dog. And then I got a pit bull that grew to be 105 pounds anyway. So, that was dumb. But they're enormous dogs. They're very sweet. They're very cool. But I would not want to tango with a 120+ pound rabid dog. Personally.
I saw a Newfoundland dog once. I was just like in a park, and I was just like, first I was like, bear? Is that a bear? And then I went up and I'm like, dog? And I was just like talking to the owner, and I was just like, how much food does this dog eat? I was just like, how can you? this is the biggest animal I've ever seen in my life up close. Like,
yeah, they're enormous.
And it was the drool.
Yeah, that was another reason why I didn't get one.
So just picturing that like bear-sized dog with rabies.
I know. I have to say that like the animal thing is very endearing to me. It's another thing where I'm just like, oh, you needed emotional support pets, but his emotional support pets also included like free range monkeys and goats. And like when Percy Shelley was at the villa in Switzerland, he made like basically a checklist, like a shopping list of all the animals that were rolling around. Mm-hmm. And it was too many animals. Like, I'm a weird animal person and I would love to have every weird ass pet in the world, but it was too many. I'm trying to find it and I'm just like, I need to find it.
Well, and I wonder, I hope, he did like animals. Obviously, he loved his dog so much. I hope that these animals were like cared for and not just sort of like adopted and then forgotten. But I feel like they were probably adopted and then forgotten.
I'm absolutely certain they were just adopted and forgotten. So Percy Shelley is talking about how the schedule while we're at the villa, and it's Lord Byron gets up at 2 and he means in the afternoon. I get up quite contrary to my usual custom at 12 at noon. After breakfast, we sit talking till 6. From 6 to 8, we gallop through the pine forests which divide Ravenna from the sea. We then come home and dine and sit up gossiping till 6 in the morning. I don't suppose this will kill me in a week or fortnight, but I shall try not any longer. Lord B's establishment consists, besides servants, of 10 horses, 8 enormous dogs, 3 monkeys, 5 cats, an eagle, a crow, and a falcon. And all of these, except for the horses, walk around the house, which every now and then resounds with their unarbitrated quarrels, as if they were masters of it. I find that my enumeration of the animals in this Cistercian palace was defective. I have just met on the grand staircase 5 peacocks, 2 guinea hens, and an Egyptian crane. I wonder who all these animals were before they were changed into these shapes.
So the droppings, I feel like of just animals going unencumbered through the indoor of a building, like.
And this is like a villa he's renting. Like, he doesn't own. He's the tenant from hell. He is like just having all of these goats run around and shit on someone else's floor.
And I'm just picturing like the eagle, like anything, just sort of like.
I'm sure eating the monkeys because that's what they do. Like
the filth of it.
Oh, God. It's honestly really repulsive. But again, that like to me, that just is part and parcel to the like grand, like macro scale. He gets it. Micro scale, this man is a nightmare. Like just an absolute careless, heartless nightmare.
And yet Greece loves him, and they should, because he really helped out there on a macro level. He's just like injustice in the world I will fight against, but like cleaning my house I will not do.
I will absolutely not do. I will not have any normal relationship with another living thing one-on-one. That is just not going to happen.
But like the objective concept of a marginalized people.
Yes.
I will help the concept of humanity, but not. Yeah.
Like it's so hard for me to be like, I wish more people were kind of like that. Like, I would love more people to be like, I am going to give all to a cause, but maybe the people who are like, I can give all to a cause can't do interpersonal relationships or interliving thing relationships. Maybe it's just like one or the other. I don't know. But Lord Byron has such a legacy of absolute nightmare crap. And it's really hard to write it off. It really, truly is.
And in terms of the like Wakefield legacy of like his father was fucked up and his grandfather was fucked up, then he's fucked up, obviously. It's like, but then it's like it ends with us. The generational curse. Like Ada Lovelace was just like, because she had the Byron genes, but her mother was like, we're gonna not like, okay, nature versus nurture. She's just like, I'm just gonna nurture you, Ada Lovelace, so that your Byronic nature won't like destroy your life. And it didn't. So it kind of like, the curse was broken with her.
Yeah, he had like seven or eight illegitimate children, and new ones pop up all the time where people go through records and it's like, oh, golly, the father on this baptismal record was definitely, also randomly, he was also like totally against the persecution of the Catholics in England. He was just like, let's open it up, fellas. This is ridiculous. So he was just like, again, macro scale, great. Yeah. Micro scale, terrible. But, he mostly sired daughters.
I was going to say, I feel like they're all girls. Like, I don't know if there's another like Byron.
I can't think of another boy, because after he died, obviously illegitimate children, the title doesn't pass to them anyway, but it went to a nephew. And then I've not really paid attention to any of the Lords Byron past, sixth Baron Byron here. So I don't know if he also kind of went off the deep end. Chances are, yeah. But I don't know what happened to the seventh Baron Byron, because honestly, the sixth one was all I could take.
Well, and I think it's like when you say there's some, titles passed from, like, we're calling him Byron because like that's how he's best known. Yeah. But it's like he was Lord Byron, but his father's Lord Byron. There's someone else's Lord Byron. But it's just like, I think like with a sports team where it's like, we're just going to retire this number because the number is so inextricably linked with this one person. It's like Lord Byron. I think we should retire that. Yeah. Like, I don't think there can be it. Like, if you're just like, oh, hey, this is my friend, Lord Byron, you'd just be like, what? No. Like, it's so...
He reanimated from the dead. Like, there's currently a Lord Byron. Like, there is currently a guy who goes by the title Lord Byron, and I cannot imagine what it's like trying to get a date. Like, God, that must suck.
You just don't go by your title. I don't think. Like, it's so linked to this one guy who, and part of that is, I think, because he was so famous in his time, but also I think he was so like self-promoting during his time. He's just like, it is I, Lord Byron. Like, he really, like, it wasn't an accident that he became a famous person. Like, Greg Jenner wrote a book that's about the invention of celebrities. And like Lord Byron is one of the first like real, like the way that we understand celebrity today, where it's just like, oh, Lord Byron was seen at this restaurant and he was eating dinner with this person. Like, it was one of the first modern celebrities, and he sort of invented that just instinctively by just being like, it is I, Lord Byron. Like,
he needed it for his ego. Like, even down to like when he is in Greece, there's like a strait that people swim competitively. And he was like, I swam it. Mm-hmm. Yep, I did. Like, it wasn't just that I was like, had like reasonable prowess, and physical prowess, because he was an obsessive exerciser. Like, he had like honest to God, like orthorexia, like in addition to bulimia, like he had every eating disorder imaginable. Because he was naturally a larger bodied person. And he was just like, no, in order to be beautiful, I need to be fit and gorgeous and skinny and all these things. And so like he tried to overcompensate for the deformed foot by being extremely athletic. So it wasn't just that he was a boxer, he was a boxing champion and had to beat everybody. It wasn't just that he was a good swimmer. He had to go to Greece and swim this channel in order to like be the best and be awarded all of these accolades and have everybody know how perfect and wonderful he was. And he absolutely wrote and read his own press releases. That man was so full of himself, and he needed everybody to know. And like the same way that we look at Kim Kardashian and she's just like, look at my new body that I just paid $8 million for. I have to tell you about it. And it's like, yeah, thanks, Lord Byron. You gave us that.
No, Lord Byron his energy is really just like this IMDb bio written by Lord Byron.
Yes, like, exactly.
Lord Byron, the most celebrated poet of all time. Biography by Lord Byron.
Lord Byron.
I was just remembering something. So when I was in London last year, I went to the National Portrait Gallery, and there's a wall where there's like, it's so interesting now that I've done more research on these people, but it's like, there's a portrait of Mary Wollstonecraft, Mary Shelley, John Polidori, and Lord Byron are like all on a wall together. And I'm just like, free them from him. But
get some distance.
But no, just when you mentioned the boxing, I was like, wait, there's sort of like, those like folding screens that, so on display, like at the National Portrait Gallery. So it's this folding screen decorated with, it's like decoupage. It's literal decoupage. Like, it's prints of theater personalities and boxers. Was made for Lord Byron by his fencing teacher, because Byron is fascinated by the new culture of celebrity. So the lives of boxers and actors were the stuff of gossip, and their printed portraits were widely available. So his fencing teacher decoupaged a like I don't know, 6-foot tall folding screen of just like posters advertising boxing celebrities. And that's, so it's called at the NPG, it's Lord Byron's decoupage screen.
In the same way that like when you're a nerd and you put like band posters on your wall and you're like, yeah, I'm going to learn how to play bass so I can be, you know, like have a band too. And you're just like, wow. And he did that just with like boxers and pugilists.
I know. It's like you take like a scrapbook and you just like carefully like glue in the pictures from the teen magazine of like your favorite, and you put stickers on it, and then you're just like, I heart Byron. Like it's that. And it's still like, now it's in a gallery just being like, but also this ties into the whole concept of like celebrities, like boxers were becoming celebrities. He's so interested in the concept of celebrity, but it's just such a little nerd thing.
Yeah. There are little things about him that are incredibly endearing, and you kind of get the ick with yourself when you're just like, really, I should not find certain aspects of this endearing. Like, you know, the child, I'm going to go back to the name of the poem that I can't pronounce. When you go
Child Harold and I forget.
Yes, exactly. My gosh. Child Harold's Pilgrimage. Like he honestly just wrote that for a girl. Like he was just like, I'm really in love with this other like teenage girl. I am a teenager. I'm going to write her a poem about how I'm going on tour, but I'm going to be thinking of her and I'm going to write this poem. And then the other thing that he did that is remarkably probably ego aware is that he sent his memoirs like to a friend to be published after he died, and then was like, scratch that, destroy it. And he had his memoirs destroyed. So we have some snippets of details of his childhood and his own feelings about things like his sexual assaults and things like that as a child. And we have some snippets of it because the men who read it recollected his thoughts about these things, but it was never published. It was completely destroyed. And he knew, I guess, enough to be like, I don't want all of my details out there. And, you know, it's just like, I really respect the fact that he either was trying to manipulate his legacy so much that he only wanted this sort of like playboy sort of persona to survive, or he was like, that's going to die with me and no one has to know about all of the abuse that I suffered. It could be one, the other, or both. And I think he was aware enough to have those conflicting feelings in him.
It's interesting though, because it's like, this is my memoir I wrote myself and I decided what to put in it. You know what? Don't publish it. It's like, you could have written a different memoir and not include it.
Could have just excised that or told them to edit it or whatever. But no, he had it destroyed. Yeah.
That reminds me of, well, every time I'm researching somebody in history and it's like, and then the papers were destroyed after. And I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah,
no.
I know.
Caroline of Brunswick, when she knew she was dying, she was just like, burn all my diaries. And I'm like, no.
Oh. You know, I couldn't imagine knowing that I was important enough while I was alive to be like, destroy my papers. Like, I couldn't imagine having that. Like, that takes its own level of ego. Cause I'm just like, who wants my notebooks? Like, I'm just some like random idiot. But they were just like, no. I mean, Caroline of Brunswick, that makes sense. She was a queen, but like, she was royalty. But for Byron to be like, again, be like, no, I don't want that, you know, preserved for posterity. No one needs to know that. I was like, could you imagine having that sense of ego?
It's so like, I kind of love that he's like, I wrote this memoir. Just kidding. Burn it. Like, well, then why did you write it?
And now historians 100 years later are like tantalized. And maybe it literally is just like this tantalization thing of like, you want all my secrets and I'm going to take them to the grave. Like, I'm going to tell everybody I wrote this thing. I'm going to tell everybody that all of my dirty laundry is in this and I'm going to have it destroyed so you can't stop thinking about me.
Yeah. So you'll know. Yeah. So exactly. So you can't stop thinking like, oh, if only I could. Yeah. It's a way to life after death. I don't know. What a weird
jerk.
Yeah. It's such a second. Thank you. Like, this is where I'm just like, I needed you to come on this episode to just like, because I'm like, who has thought about him more than you? I don't know.
No, it's weird to have this sort of like be part of your like persona, like, because I started Fuckboys of Lit in 2019, and it took off like pretty quickly. And to start with Lord Byron, and to kind of just become like, I never considered Lord Byron before I started the podcast. Like I never like sat and ruminated about this guy I probably read in like 10th grade English class. Like I didn't do that. But now to actually have this sort of Byronic lens to put over, media at large, it's become a very interesting thing to have people kind of like reach out and be like, why this guy? Why does he like it? And I'm by no means a scholar. Obviously, you've heard me for the last like hour kind of stumble through this, but he's such an interesting lens to put over all of our discussions about masculinity, all of our discussions about femininity, all of our discussions about gender performance, all of our discussions about literature, all of our discussions about history. He's such an interesting person to filter all of this through.
Mm-hmm. There's so much there to just like, exactly. It's just like if somebody is a historian on celebrity, if someone's a historian on like gender performance, if someone's a historian on like disability, it's like, it's all there.
It's like all there. And it's again, like why I probably started FBOL more as like a sardonic joke. And after doing it for so many years, I was like, I feel so much less cynicism about these people. And I feel so much less cynicism about his behavior, because oftentimes when you learn about like Lady Carolyn Lamb, you also don't ever get the context that he was like sexually abused as a child. They just kind of go for the more, look at what a jerk this guy was, look at what, all the things that he did, and not the things that were sort of burned into him that he didn't have control over. His family, whatever hereditary mental illnesses they may have passed on from one to another. And it's just been really interesting way to have more depth of field of the way that I look about society at large. And it's all thanks to, unfortunately, Lord Byron.
Yeah, it's just like against your will, against all of our will. It's like, oh, he's still important today. He's still important.
He really is. Like, I can't recommend enough reading The Fall of the House of Byron by Emily Brand. It's an incredibly well-researched book. And it really also offers just like a much better conceptualization for me as an American about like peerage and privilege during this time. And as much as we all love watching like Bridgerton and stuff like that, to get a better concept of of the privilege and wealth and world that these stories that we're aware of like actually function in, is an incredible book to read, especially about this one family that we all wish we didn't know this much about.
Oh, mad, bad, dangerous to know, the entire Byron family.
Entire Byron family.
Actually, you just queued me up in a really nice way for me to make an announcement to all the listeners, because this episode is the finale of Mary Shelley Month, which we've been doing for the whole month of October. And we're pivoting directly into the next season of Vulgar History, which, surprise, this is a Halloween trick and a treat, which is Mary Shelley Month is morphing into the Regency era. The next season of my podcast is about the Regency era. Retroactively, the Mary Shelley episodes are the beginning of that season. And Lord Byron is such a presence. Everyone I've been researching for the Regency era episodes, it's just like, everyone has a thought about him or a run-in with him, or he was at their dinner party or something. Like when people think of the Regency era, it's like, oh, Jane Austen, whatever. It's like, no, Lord Byron. Like
Lord Byron. He was the poster child for it. Like, I can't think of an equivalent today. Like, I truly can't think of someone who is like, I truly can't think of someone who is like analogous to like this level of influence and friendship and connection. Like maybe just the world's too big.
It is. And I think maybe there's someone who's like that for, people who are fans of country music or people who are fans of horror movies or whatever, but there's not one person that everyone is connected to. Lord Byron, honestly, I probably will by the end of this Regency era series draw like not a Venn diagram, but one of those like spider web diagrams where it's like Lord Byron's in the middle and it's like he's connected to this and he's connected to this. Like he's the linchpin of this entire era. In a way, like again, Jane Austen is probably the most famous person from the Regency era, But she was just like living in her little village writing her books. Like she was not hanging out with every celebrity of the era. Like Lord Byron is connected to everybody.
It's just, he's just an incredible like person from history. And I never want to go so far as to be a Byron scholar. Like I don't need to know that much, but just like Shane on the L Word. I'm really dating myself on that, which is like the web of how everybody knew him and was influenced by them, and not necessarily in a positive way.
Everybody, I think, I don't know. I will not give him the credit of like connecting everybody in my upcoming series to Lord Byron, but just like, no, he will be in almost every episode.
Yeah, he's going to show up a lot. He truly is.
He was, because it's like, it was the era where it's like, well, you're having a ball or a dinner party or whatever. It's just like, who do you invite? And it's like, well, you always invite Lord Byron because he's just like going to be a good guest. He's the most famous person. And if he accepts your invitation, then more people will come to your event, your gala, absolutely, or whatever. Like he's the guy.
Yeah. And because he spent so much time outside of England, he's part of balls in Spain, part of balls in Italy, part of balls in Switzerland. And it's just
everywhere. It's just whack-a-mole, Lord Byron. It's like, what are you doing, Lord Byron?
Transcontinental, like traveling fuckboy. Like it's just incredible how much influence he had.
So many sagas. Yeah. So, Emily, thank you so much for this conversation. Please let everybody know where they can hear more of your voice and read more of your words.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on. This was just like an absolute blast. I am across social media at usually Blue Sky and Instagram at Ms. Emily Edwards. You can also find me at MsEmilyEdwards.com. I am the co-host of the podcast Ticklish Business, which is all about classic film. You can hear Anne on an episode from last year about Anne of 1,000 Days. That was really, really fun. Got to have you back on soon.
Oh, we're going to be, yes, Kristen and I, your co-host of Ticklish Business.
Yes.
Like we've got something in the works for next year for return appearance, something Regency era.
Wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. And I also wrote some books. I wrote some historical 1950s noir kind of pulpy mystery novels. They're called the Girl Friday Mysteries. And if you really like comedy mysteries, it would be great if you could request them at your local library. That's about that.
I just want to test that as my two passions in life really are just like women's history and cozy murder mysteries. So
yes.
So yeah, no, like your work is right at the intersection and movies. But yeah, no, murder mysteries are my favorite thing to read. So I'm very happy that you are contributing to that oeuvre.
Thank you. It's really fun. It is definitely not the most the feminine friendly genre out there because I write more like private detective kind of like PI stuff, and man, that can get really anti-women. So I try to make it a little bit more feminist and a little bit more fun and a little bit more funny. So. And it's been fun doing that. I don't have another one coming out soon, but I should have a couple short stories and things like that pressed this in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to read those, follow me over on Blue Sky and I will post links to that.
And that reminds me also, you have your newsletter, which is about sleuths.
Yes. So I just started a newsletter about silver screen sleuths. I really enjoy on-screen detective fiction. And so it just started a couple of weeks ago. We've done like Devil in a Blue Dress and Murder on the Death on the Nile. And upcoming is, by the time this comes out, we'll have The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery, based on Umberto Eco's novel from the 80s, which is a trip and a half in order to get through.
That's like a medieval one, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a medieval monk monastery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the movie is awful, but the book is really interesting. The book is way funnier than the movie. It's like a spoof on Sherlock Holmes, and then the director of the movie decided to throw all of that away and take it very seriously. So it's just like it's a very interesting dichotomy between book and movie, because the book is really funny and the movie is not.
That's so interesting. I just assumed that the book was also really serious because the movie is. But yeah, so this is all like people can subscribe to your newsletter. It's your website, right? It's where people go.
MsEmilyEdwards.com. You can find to sign up there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. And I just want to remind all of the listeners that I do have a book coming out in February called Rebel of the Regency, The Scandal Saga of Caroline of Brunswick, Britain's Uncrowned Queen, who was, as I've mentioned a few times, a friend of Byron, though, as he was as good a friend to her as he was to anyone, really. He defended her in private, but did not step up for her in public. But anyway, if you go to my website, rebeloftheregency.com, there's all the links there to pre-order my book. And if you pre-order my book, and you send your receipt to me, I'm giving people little treats. They can get a free membership to my Substack, to my Patreon, and also a Carolina Brunswick paper doll, because she was also a fashion icon of the time.
That's amazing.
I was really excited when I thought of the idea of the paper doll, and then my friend Siobhan, she has a really cute art style. And I was just like, could you do this? And I sent her portraits. I'm like, these are the outfits for the paper doll, please. And can you make it be actually a paper doll so people can actually print it and cut it out? And so you could actually make it a paper doll.
That is so cool. I love that concept.
That is the thing I've done. So anyway, rebeloftheregency.com is where you can get all the information. Emily, thank you so much for joining me. This was, I don't know, you know what? I'm just like, sympathy for Lord Byron. I'm like, wow, what? Okay.
Yeah, tamp it down. Just tamp it down.
Just think about Claire Claremont, and then I'm full of rage again. And then, okay.
Exactly.
Sympathy is gone.
This was the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Ann Foster. That's me. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severin Duo. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early, ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/AnnFosterWriter. Vulgar History merchandise is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans, and for everyone else at vulgarhistory.redbubble.com. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod, and get in touch with me via email at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
You know the words dominating today's headlines.
Private equity,
generative capital gains tax,
America's chip fueled by market volatility.
Bets on Fed rate cuts are sweet.
But do you understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe at Bloomberg.com.
This podcast is dedicated to my younger self because she really needed it. She couldn't keep a man or a job. Welcome to Broco Therapy. I'm your host, Stephanie Macon.
I'm your co-host, Rose McAleese.
Every week we dive into dating, sex, and relationships.
Who doesn't want best friend kind of deep conversations?
It's about creating a safe space and just having a good time while listening and also crying a little bit.
I think there's nothing better than listening to a podcast and crying.
Yes.
That's how all podcasts should be, is you crying silently to yourself.
And that's on therapy. And I just want to say that we are not professionals, but we bring professionals on the pod to therapize us, to give us some advice. Listen to Broco Therapy wherever you love to listen to podcasts, and head to brocotherapy.com for all the info and the links. Therapy is too expensive, but this podcast isn't. Broco Therapy.
When they were young, the 5 members of an elite commando group nicknamed the Stone Wolves raged against the oppressive rule of the Craterakian Empire, which occupies and dominates most of the galaxy's inhabited planets. The Wolves fought for freedom, but they failed, leaving countless corpses in their wake. Defeated and disillusioned, they hung up their guns and went their separate ways, all hoping to find some small bit of peace amidst a universe thick with violence and oppression. 4 decades after their heyday, they each try to stay alive and eke out a living. But a friend from the past won't let them move on, and neither will their bitterest enemy. The Stone Wolves is season 11 of the Galactic Football League science fiction series by author Scott Sigler. Enjoy it as a standalone story, or listen to the entire GFL series beginning with season 1, The Rookie. Search for Scott Sigler, Sigler, wherever you get your podcasts.